January 27th, 1978, Sacramento, California. Police respond to a call from a terrified neighbor. Gunshots had echoed through a quiet suburban street. Officers enter a modest home on Marywood Drive. What they find inside will haunt them forever. Blood covers the walls and carpets, furniture overturned, bullet casings scattered. On the bedroom floor lies 38-year-old Evelyn Miroth, dead, mutilated, and drained of blood. Nearby are the bodies of her 6-year-old son Jason, her friend Ann Meredith, and the 22-month-old baby, but the baby's body is missing. Detectives realize immediately this isn't a robbery. It's something darker, something inhuman. They have just entered the lair of Richard Trenton Chase, the man who would become known as the Vampire of Sacramento. In the days that followed, Sacramento was paralyzed by fear. People double-locked their doors. Parents kept their children inside. The killer had no pattern, no motive, only madness. And what made it worse, he drank his victim's blood. Police released a vague suspect description: a thin, pale man driving a rust-colored car. It wasn't much, but it was enough to set off a manhunt. What no one knew then was that this killer had been descending into insanity for years. Richard Trenton Chase was born on May 23, 1950, in Santa Clara, California. By all accounts, his childhood was unstable. His father was strict and often violent. His mother emotionally detached. As a boy, Richard was withdrawn and shy, but he also showed the McDonald triad, 3 warning signs seen in many violent offenders: bedwetting, cruelty to animals, and fascination with fire. By his teenage years, Chase had become obsessed with death. He believed something was wrong with his body, that his heart would stop beating, and that his blood was turning to dust. He would press oranges to his forehead, thinking vitamin C could absorb through his skin. He thought his skull plates were moving. Soon, his delusions deepened. He began drinking the blood of animals, believing it would restore his health. In 1975, Chase was found injecting rabbit blood into his veins. He was sent to a psychiatric hospital, where staff nicknamed him Dracula. He caught and killed birds on hospital grounds, smearing their blood on his face. Doctors diagnosed him with paranoid schizophrenia and put him on medication. For a while, he stabilized. He was released into his mother's care, a decision that would later prove deadly. Soon after, his mother took him off his medication. Chase spiraled out of control. He began killing animals again and collecting blood in cups and blenders. He believed Nazis had poisoned him and that drinking blood was his only cure. By late 1977, Richard Chase was no longer living in reality. December 29, 1977, 51-year-old Ambrose Griffin was helping his wife bring in groceries. Suddenly, a single shot rang out. Griffin collapsed in his driveway, dead. The bullet came from a passing car. No motive, no witnesses. Police thought it was a random act, but for Richard Chase, it was his first taste of human blood. January 23, 1978. Just weeks later, Chase entered the home of 22-year-old Teresa Wallen, a pregnant woman living alone. He shot her 3 times, then mutilated her body. He cut her open, removed the organs, and used a yogurt cup to drink her blood. He even stuffed dog feces into her mouth. The crime scene horrified detectives. They knew they were dealing with someone completely detached from reality, a true predator. For days later, Chase struck again, this time at Evelyn Miroth's home. Evelyn was babysitting her 22-month-old nephew David, while her friend Dan Meredith stopped by for coffee. Without warning, Richard Chase broke in through an unlocked door. He shot Dan first, then turned his gun on Evelyn, Jason, and the baby. After the murders, he mutilated their bodies and drank their blood. When police arrived, it was clear the killer believed he was some sort of vampire. Chase later explained chillingly, "If the door was locked, that meant I wasn't welcome. But if it was open, that was my invitation." Detectives found bloody footprints and fingerprints all over the crime scene. They traced a single handprint to an apartment complex where a thin, disheveled man had been seen carrying boxes stained with blood. Police surrounded the apartment and waited. When Chase finally stepped outside, officers tackled him to the ground inside his apartment. They discovered a horror show. Blood-stained dishes, blenders filled with red liquid, and pieces of human organs in the refrigerator. Walls were smeared with blood. He had even kept some of his victims' remains for later use. It was clear Richard Chase didn't kill for pleasure. He killed because he thought he had to. In 1979, Chase was charged with 6 counts of murder. His defense argued he was insane, that he truly believed his delusions. But prosecutors pointed out he took steps to avoid detection, cleaning weapons, hiding evidence, and escaping witnesses. After a 5-month trial, the jury found him guilty of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to death in the gas chamber at San Quentin State Prison. Even among killers, Chase was feared. Other inmates avoided him, calling him Drac. He often refused to eat, believing food was poisoned. On December 26, 1980, prison guards found Richard Chase dead in his cell. He had hoarded antidepressants and overdosed. The Vampire of Sacramento was gone by his own hand.